My name is Doug O'Malley with Environment New Jersey, and I just wanted to thank everybody for coming here today, especially Senator Gordon, who's the lead sponsor of S253, legislation to ban fracking waste in the state, as well as Senator Greenstein, who is also a sponsor of the legislation. And importantly, it's to note that this has been really a joint effort, not only through environmental leaders in the legislature, but also through our environmental coalition partners, some of whom actually are right now in Philadelphia protesting the Marcellus Shale gas industry conference with over 2,000 people strong. So certainly, those organizations like the Delaware Riverkeeper and Food and Water Watch have been instrumental. Clearly, the organizations in the room have been equally important. Jeff Tittle from the New Jersey Sierra Club, Mike Pizarro from the New Jersey Environmental Lobby, and Dave Pringle from the New Jersey Environmental Federation. And really, all of us kind of speak to this broader truth that fracking is a multitude of issues, but it's a multitude of outrage for the public. And we're here today to release a report that not only kind of quantifies the common sense outrage at the environmental disasters that fracking creates, but also to look at the dollars and cents impact that fracking has on communities. It's an issue the natural gas industry is running away from because they don't want to talk about it, and they're happy to leave us holding the bag with pollution and with environmental costs leading way into the future. And one of the other key reasons we're here today is because the governor has spent all summer doing a lot of things, but he has not, in close to 3 months, has not made a decision on the fracking waste ban bill. The governor has had plenty of time. The clock is ticking down, and we're all here today to tell him quite simply that he needs to sign this legislation into law. Now, when we think of fracking waste, this is not just a rhetorical issue, and this is one of the things that the report gets at, is that these are real costs that are being faced by communities across the country and including in our neighbor in Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania really has been the model of what not to do and why fracking is not only so dangerous for our environment, but also so dangerous for our balance books. Looking at DIMIC, which has created a ton of headlines for the contaminated water, it's critical to note that the cost for the community to replace that water would have been $11 million. Cabot continued to kind of deny responsibility, and even the temporary cost of water is over $100,000 for just an incredibly small number of homes, 14 homes. So that gives you kind of the magnitude of the costs associated with the pollution from fracking and fracking waste. And I think it's critical to know that in Pennsylvania, there are literally thousands, tens of thousands of wells that not only have been drilled and are being drilled, but are going to be left. And who's left with that cost? It's certainly not the gas companies. Cabot was forced to pay for reclamation for 3 wells. That cost close to $1 million per well, over $700,000. That's an example of the costs that we're not talking about when we're talking about the impacts of fracking waste. And that doesn't even analyze the impacts not just on the well, but on the areas surrounding it. So, for many ways, the whole reason the industry is focusing on New Jersey is because they can't get away with just literally putting their fracking waste, in a pit next to the well. That's their preferred method of treatment. No treatment at all. And as we know from New Jersey, their next method of treatment is to come and bring it and dump it in our waterways. And clearly, we need to have a bright line in the sand to stand up against that. Now, I don't want to go on too much longer. The report really analyzes these costs in a very in-depth way, but I want to leave time for both our legislative champions to speak. And next speaking will be Senator Bob Gordon, who over the course of the last 8 years has been a very strong environmental leader, and clearly this bill is no exception. Senator?
Thank you very much. I want to applaud the authors of this report for their analysis, which quantifies the wide variety of costs associated with fracking. There are many activities in our economy have spillover effects. Economists call them externalities. And the classic is pollution. Company A on a stream dumps pollution in the stream. Company B downstream, which uses the water for its production, has to incur costs to clean that up. Those costs don't show up in anyone's financial statement or balance sheet, but they are certainly costs that are being imposed on a community and on others. And we recognized a long time ago that when these spillover effects, these externalities occur, there is a need for government to intervene. In the case of the Highlands, we realized that if we were to allow development to occur there, unfettered, billions of dollars would have to be spent to clean up the watershed that half the New Jersey population depends on. And so government intervened, and we prohibited development in certain areas in the Highlands and regulated it in others. And of course, in the pollution area, we establish standards for emissions, or we impose outright bans on pollution. This is a situation where we have widespread spillover effects, potential impacts on the water supply, on communities, on our transportation infrastructure, on our water infrastructure, that calls out for government intervention. I personally thought that we should ban fracking in New Jersey. The governor chose to conditionally veto that. We now have an opportunity to try to address the potential spillover costs of wastewater treatment by banning the treatment of wastewater in New Jersey. I am hopeful the governor will sign that. He has until Monday to do that. This is an opportunity for the governor to really take a step forward and protect the New Jersey environment, and I hope he will do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And next, Senator Greenstein, who has been an instrumental leader on the Senate Environment Committee on this issue as well as many others. Senator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have yet another report today to show us the dangers of fracking. I only learned about fracking a year or two ago. It was a new term to me, as I'm sure it was to many others, a new concept. And like so many other dangers to the environment, there was what might have been a good intention, trying to extract natural gas for use in our energy system, but we ignored the bad effects. We have been trying hard to ban fracking in New Jersey, and as Senator Gordon said, we have not been successful in that. The governor has not wanted to do that. However, what we must do is ban the effects of fracking in New Jersey, especially when dirty water is being brought in from other places. We want to make certain that it doesn't end up here in New Jersey, polluting the systems, the water systems here in New Jersey. We have to be very careful not to let fracking have all of its negative impacts here in New Jersey. It's our responsibility as legislators, first and foremost, to protect the people of New Jersey. I would say that is probably our top priority. That's why there's so much legislation in this regard. I would ask the governor to partner with us to help protect the people of New Jersey from the very proven, scientifically proven dangers of fracking. We don't want to pretend that those don't exist. There's lots of evidence that they do. And we want to work with real science, not pseudoscience. And real science tells me that fracking is a danger to the people of New Jersey. So I hope the governor will sign this bill and that we will provide protections to the people of our state who need it so much from this insidious practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we'll hear from Jeff Tittle from the New Jersey Sierra Club. Jeff and the Sierra Club staff have been the lead organization on fighting pipelines coming throughout New Jersey, and it's only fitting that the Sierra Club is leading a hike this weekend as part of the Global Frack Down to illustrate that cost here in the state.
Thank you. And I just wanted to start off and say that New Jersey has more Superfund sites than any other state. New Jersey has more miles of waters that are considered impaired for pollution as a percentage of its state than any other state. So it makes absolutely no sense for the state of New Jersey to want to see any waste coming into New Jersey from fracking. We do not need to create any new toxic sites in the state. We do not need to create any more water pollution in the state. And if anybody thinks we don't have enough water pollution in New Jersey, I'm not sure what they've been drinking. But the point that we're here today is that it's not only the direct impacts of fracking, it's the indirect. That currently there are 3 gas lines that have been proposed cutting through New Jersey. And there are more coming, at least 2 more. And most of that gas is going to be coming directly from Pennsylvania and from the frack fields in the Delaware and northern Pennsylvania basins. The Tenneco line, which has actually 50% of its proposed, is going actually through state parks and open space. They actually want to drill under the Monksville Reservoir. The Transco line is going to go past Spruce Run around Valley Reservoirs and through a lot of other parks. And Spectra line goes right through the middle of Jersey City, in one of the most densely populated areas in the United States. And so we see the dangers of these wells, we see the dangers of these pipelines from a safety standpoint, but also from an environmental standpoint, because when you build these lines, there's siltation and erosion, and we've seen from just work on one of the lines, a whole Lake Lookout up in West Milford getting silted up from it, and because you cannot control erosion in steep slopes that are over 30%. And they want to drill right through Monksville Reservoir, which is part of a water supply system for almost 2.5 million people. And so that is a secondary impact, but the first and primary impact that we're looking at is the potential for dumping in New Jersey, whether it's taking in trail cuttings into Elizabeth or Kearney, whether it's fracking wastewater going down to DuPont and Deepwater or other places. And so today, as thousands of people from across the country are in Philadelphia, and this week where we're doing so many events around this country and in New Jersey around fracking, the governor should sign the bill. This is one of the clearest choices that we have when it comes to the governor on the environment. He could either stand with the people of New Jersey and clean water, or he can stand with the fossil fuel industry, the gas lobby, and the Koch brothers against clean water. And so for us, there is no issue that is as clear as far as this governor is concerned. When he conditionally vetoed the ban bill last year, the moratorium bill last year, he was wrong. But he at least said, we want to wait for studies and other things. We know that taking toxic waste from fracking is wrong. We don't need any more studies. We know that New Jersey cannot process this waste. Our facilities are not designed for it. So this is very clear that the governor can either be for clean water and be for the people of New Jersey, or he could be for more pollution in our waterways and take the side of the big oil and gas companies. And there's nothing clear. So he should sign this bill. And that's, today more than 1,000 Sierra Club members sent emails to his office. There have been phone calls going in from a lot of groups. He's been getting thousands of letters, thousands of emails. 20,000 letters were dropped off a few weeks ago. People of New Jersey demand that as a governor of the state of New Jersey, he does his job and he protects public health and protects our waterways and signs this legislation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And next, Mike Pizarro from the Jersey Environmental Lobby, one of the lead environmental advocates in the state.
Thank you. This governor, despite his record, keeps saying he's not against the environment. If he signs this bill, maybe there'll be some credibility to that, but if he doesn't, he clearly shows his colors. As Jeff said, New Jersey has waterways that are polluted, that are not clean. They can't sustain fish, they can't sustain life. And we're going to bring water that has been polluted from somewhere else. We're not going to tell the treatment facilities what's there, because that's what happens. And these facilities cannot treat it. They cannot remove everything, so we're going to dump untreated water back into our waterways that we use to recreate, to fish, to drink. New Jersey is not a second-class citizen, and if this ban does not go into effect, the governor thinks it is. The industry tells you it's safe, and if it's so safe, why did they urge and get exclusions from the Clean Water Act from the federal government? It is not safe, it is not clean, even if done 100% right, it pollutes our environment. New Jersey is not a second-class citizen, and we deserve to be clean, not get dirtier. So we urge the governor to sign this ban and stand up for New Jersey.
Great, thank you, Mike. And then last but not least, Dave Pringle from the New Jersey Environmental Federation.
New Jersey needs more dirty water like we need another hole in our head. Frack wastewater being discharged in New Jersey's waters, no matter how treated they are, it means more pollution, means more wasted capacity at our sewage treatment plants when we need to be doing redevelopment, when we need to be protecting our water. It increases our dependence on fossil fuel when there are cleaner, safer alternatives that create more jobs. So for all those reasons, if the governor cares about air, cares about water, cares about true jobs in a sustainable economy, not Tea Party wingnuts, he'll be signing this bill.
Great, thank you. And then we'll just conclude. Are there any questions that you have, Steve?
Everybody understands the need for energy independence. And we have this tremendous amount of natural gas out there. Fracking is one way to get that gas. Are there other technologies down the road that might be more friendly to the environment, which would make it worth waiting before we start extracting some of this gas?
Well, I think the first place to start off with is if we're looking at doubling down and trying to expand the amount of fossil fuels that we're using in this country, we're ultimately putting ourselves into a deeper and deeper hole, because natural gas is a fossil fuel. It's not a transitional fuel. It's a bridge to nowhere. If we're really serious about making a transition to clean energy, and New Jersey historically has been a clean energy leader on both solar and offshore wind, even though the governor has failed to act over the course of the last year and a half on legislation that he signed on offshore wind. Historically, we've been a leader. If we want to be serious about New Jersey's and the country's clean energy future, we need to focus on clean renewable technologies as well as energy efficiency, not kind of wait for a cleaner technology for fossil fuels.
And I just wanted to add that you don't need to frack to get natural gas. Fracking, deep well fracking is relatively new. There's plenty of gas that comes from industrial byproduct at refinery. There's plenty of gas that comes from existing oil well drilling and from existing gas fields where they're not fracking. So one, we should be promoting and developing cleaner sources of energy, renewable wind, and energy efficiency, which is the biggest thing. We can cut our energy use by close to half with energy efficiency. And there's ways of getting gas without destroying our drinking water.
And then just the last point on that, the cost, the price tag for our, in Pennsylvania, for the most dominant source of energy in the last century, coal, that has left that state with a $5 billion price tag for cleanup. We don't certainly want to have a cleanup for fracking anywhere near that in the decades to come.